Call to order the City of Apache Junction work session to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Here.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Suller.
I'm here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Presentation and discussion on municipal court associated administrative agreements. Who's going to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I believe the judge is here, and it is his item.
Oh, okay.
And he also has the second item. You might want to do them together to save a little time,
Okay.
but
All right. The second
okay to
one
us.
is presentation discussion on requests for juvenile hearing officer appointments also.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for your time today. So I'm here to discuss both the extension of 3 new contracts for new associate magistrates for the municipal court, as well as the essentially the renewal and updating contracts for the 2 existing associate magistrates for the municipal court. I am presenting this to make sure that the court's needs are fulfilled. Obviously, covering the court is a top priority. Also, compliance with the Apache Junction City Code for the minimum qualifications is also a priority for the court. And so I'm asking the court to extend 3 new contracts to 3 individuals that that all of whom I know personally, all of whom I've worked with in the past. All 3 are qualified members of the Arizona State Bar. Ms. Roll worked with me very closely at the county attorney's office. She was a trusted friend and colleague, and she has a lot of years of experience. She was formerly the Pinal County Director of Elections, and worked with me as an appellate attorney at the county attorney's office. Cody and Megan Wiegand are both attorneys that I know, and I've worked with as they've been defense counsels on the other side of cases that I've been on. Both are very, very qualified, and both have prior judicial experience. Mr. Wiegand is currently a pro tem for Pinal County, and Ms. Wiegand was a court commissioner, and I actually was in front of her numerous times for juvenile cases. She covered the juvenile calendar at Pinal County for a time. And so I know all 3 of these individuals very well, and I can vouch for their legal knowledge and acumen, and I believe that they would make great additions to the court. The reason I'm asking for these 3 new contracts is because the 2 that we have currently they've been wonderful. However, they are also practicing attorneys, and our contract is kind of an on-call as needed basis. And so if I am sick or if I am out at training, I do have a training coming up in a couple weeks, we'll need additional associate magistrates to cover on an as-needed basis. And the last time I was at training, I think we had at least one person, one associate judge who didn't meet the qualifications under the city code. And so I want to make sure that we're getting adequate coverage as well as complying with the city code for the qualifications for the associate magistrates. And so that's the basis for my the first agenda item. As to the second agenda item, that's to the statute is ARS 8323, and it states that for municipal courts to serve as juvenile hearing officers, the local governing body, i.e. the city council, has to approve. And the reason I'm putting this forward is because this is an issue that has come up where the police department has to, currently all juvenile matters have to be sent down to Florence. The police have to file a juvenile petition, which is a little bit more time consuming for the things like traffic offenses, which are the offenses that can be heard by a municipal court for juveniles. There's a small list of cases that can be heard in the municipal court, but it's far more cost effective, especially for the police department, to have those heard in municipal court rather than having to file the petition down in Superior Court in Florence. And so that's why I am asking the court to, I'm sorry, I'm asking the council to approve that agenda item as well. I have been approved by Judge Giorgini of the Supreme Court, I'm sorry, of the Superior Court, as a juvenile officer. I can get the court administration to approve the new judges, as well as Mr. Wiegand is probably already approved as a pro tem, and I believe Judge Kilsky is already approved by Maricopa County as a juvenile hearing officer. And so the court is asking for the council's approval for all 5 of us, including myself, to serve as juvenile hearing officers. Any questions from the council about that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are the two related, husband, wife?
They are husband and wife, yes, that's correct. I won't need to have them serve on the same day, I don't believe. Generally, we'll have adequate coverage, but yeah, they are husband and wife. They are, they're currently at their, it was Mr. Wiegand's firm, actually. Our former county attorney it was a partner of Mr. Wiegand formerly, and now Miss Wiegand is with his firm now. Yes.
So as long,
You said
Yes.
there's 5 of you, but
Yeah, total of 5 for
this shows a total of 6.
6. I'm sorry, myself
Counting you.
and the 5
Well,
associates.
you had said
excuse me.
including myself.
Yes,
there's 5.
yes, including myself for the juvenile hearing officers. You'd have to approve me as well. So the 6 of us total.
Okay.
For the juvenile hearing officers. But the 5 contracts are for the associate magistrates. And I've worked with Mr. Stern to kind of update the contracts for the existing. It's the same terms essentially, except for some of the verbiage was clarified, and they've all signed and notarized. All 5 of the applicants have notarized and signed the contract, and the terms are acceptable for all 5 of them. So we just need the council's approval at this point.
Yes.
Your Honor, my question is, approximately how many cases in a 3-month period do you think that we'd be able to bring the juveniles here rather than having?
That is a good question. I don't have an exact number for you. I know I have been contacted personally by actually my successor down at the county attorney's office, who heads up the juvenile unit, and he said that, yeah, there's been quite a few that have been sent down to the Superior Court. I can't give you the exact number, but I do know that that obviously the Superior Court has a heavy docket as well, but these are the statutes for the 823 offenses are things like, it's mainly traffic violations, tobacco, curfew violations in some cases, game and fish, or city code. City code should be handled in the city anyway, so there's really no reason for it to go down to the Superior Court to have a Superior Court judge handle a city code violation. And so it's more appropriate for these offenses to be sent here. But I'm sorry, I can't give you the exact number of exactly how many we have. But I do expect it to be at least a noticeable amount once we restart it. My understanding was under my predecessor, that my predecessor was a juvenile hearing officer, but when the court took over after his resignation, they did basically end that and just sent all the matters to a petition in the juvenile court down in Florence. Any further questions?
Don't see any more?
maybe just one quick statement. I could see parents getting a heck of a lot more upset with their juvenile
Yes.
if they have to travel to Florence.
Yes.
And it may make more of an impression upon that child to not do it again.
Yes.
So, yes, it is convenient, but at
Right.
the same time, it's also a learning process
I understand.
for both
It sure is, yeah.
child and parent.
And believe me, I'm going to be talking to the associates about how to handle the juvenile cases and how to kind of verbally admonish them when they come in and things of that nature.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, just to note that both of these items are on tomorrow night's consent agenda.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Presentation, discussion of Wayfair decisions, online sales, origination.
Your Honor, I just wanted to briefly just say that this is a
part of the retreat in terms of what we want to establish. This one, to get this one going, was one particular one that came up. Wanted to give a little bit more time to Rob and you all for this item, but what you'll see in a couple weeks or in a month, we'll have the regular just legislative input and discussion with Mr. Whistler as we go. Rob?
Thank you much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Rob Whistler, Management Analyst for the City Manager's Office. As Brian said, I'm here tonight to provide a legislative update, looking in particular at online sales tax origination and HB 2118 that's currently in the state legislature. So online sales tax origination, it sounds pretty complex. And so what that is that when there is an online sale of some good, there's going to be a sales tax generated somewhere. And the question is where does that sales tax go to? So a little bit of history on this. Prior to 2018, online sales taxes or online sales were not something that municipalities were able to tax, by and large. The rule was at the time that a business had to be physically located within the municipality for a municipality to be able to charge that sales tax. So cities and towns were losing out on sales tax dollars during that time. In 2018, that changed with South Dakota v. Wayfair, a Supreme Court case that reversed that decision and allowed for states to collect sales tax from online retailers, even if they aren't located physically there. In 2019, Arizona went ahead and they passed a law that allows both the state and local governments to collect sales tax on online purchases. So how has Wayfair impacted municipalities since then? In two ways. The first is that because the state charges their own state TPT tax to online purchases, and that state tax goes into state shared revenue, all 91 cities and towns in Arizona get back some of those dollars through state shared revenue. The more importantly on this is that cities and towns have also been permitted to establish their own sales tax on online purchases and set their own rates. Now, post-Wayfair, it's set up such that if the seller meets that $100,000 benchmark that says that you now have to pay sales tax into the system, they must pay those sales tax to the jurisdiction where the good is transmitted, shipped to, as we say, the destination. That's probably the term you'll hear me use the rest of the way. All right, so let's talk about 2118. It was introduced at the beginning of a session by Representative Neil Carter from LD15 down in Santan Valley. As it was drafted, when the sales tax, as it currently is, it goes to the destination, this bill would reverse that and send it to the business location. So just a quick example here. So if you order something online from a Target in Mesa to ship to your house, right now, as under the Wayfair standard, Apache Junction receives that sales tax. Under this, if this were to pass and become law, you do that transaction, but it would actually be City of Mesa would get those tax dollars. So I've included here, I'll just be brief on this. This is the actual text of the bill, just noting the change in the bill that in the law that would, as a result of this bill. So where's the bill currently? It passed out of the House in mid-February and crossed over to the Senate. It was assigned to the Senate Finance Committee, but it has not moved. It has not advanced in the process since then. During this time, the League of Cities has been working with the sponsor and with the Arizona Department of Revenue to find some language that would protect the current system where the sales tax goes to the shipping destination. However, in perhaps, if I might say, the luck of the Irish, I'm sorry, Well, last week we found out that the bill is most likely dead. That, in fact, the online retail community didn't want this, and they're putting a plug in this. I just wanted to, before we wrapped up here, just wanted to show council the impact of the online sales on our budget. So beginning in 2020, which was the first full fiscal year that we had access to this revenue stream, 1 million, and in the last fiscal year, almost 1.6 million to our general fund through this. All right, and that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Yes.
Robert, just a question, and you may not know the answer, but I'm trying to understand what would have gone through State Representative Neil Carter's head to make him want to do this to cities and towns.
He's just not a very bright man.
Well,
Okay.
and
I just can't figure out why he would be screwing over towns and cities.
what's the gain for them down there?
See, I knew this question was going to be asked, and the answer is not a simple one. This is not a leadership bill. This is not a bill that the Republican leadership in the House is pushing for. This is an individual. He's interested in this. And the best, long and short of it, he lives in Santan Valley, and he doesn't like that he pays, but he has some sort of business interest outside, I think in Queen Creek, and he just doesn't like that he has to pay taxes on it in this way. It's a totally individual level thing.
Well, that may explain it, yeah.
It's
Once
for
again,
selfish gain.
yeah, once again, somebody at the state wants to attack the revenue for cities. We need to hold these people accountable when it comes time to vote. Anybody out in the public, if you want your city to run, it needs funds. This is a way cities get funds. If they take this away from us, we will have to do drastic cuts. 1.5 million is a lot of money for the city of Apache Junction. And again, you know, they took away the rental tax. They tried to take away the food tax. They want to bankrupt cities. And it's unacceptable, and we need to hold these people accountable when it comes time for elections.
Yeah, that's one that needs to be fired.
Do you want to make a comment?
I'm just looking at these numbers, and the first thing I thought of when you had the one person was just the fact that it had to be something that he personally was interested in, because it would make no sense whatsoever. But I am very pleased that you're bringing these legislative items up as per the retreat, because every single person that's out there that comes back up, we got to watch, because every single one that's looking to take all the control from the city needs to step aside for those who want to take care of the entire state, not just their own backyard. That's quite a bit. And do we think, because this is like every time I buy from Amazon and I'm taxed, right?
That is correct.
That's correct.
This is solely the tax.
This is that.
And we expect, what kind of growth do you expect from this because of the new households down south?
Exactly. And so our development fee consultant, who will bring which we have to do every 5 years, reminded us that how did he call it, Matt? Carson Bice, residential is the new retail?
Rooftops are the new retail.
Yeah, rooftops are the new retail. So a new analysis since this Wayfair case, we've noticed these kinds of, these revenues, because of it, is bringing in a significant.
Your Honor.
This data is very clear to help us run the
I
city.
would like to know, if anybody can give us an idea what kind of per household revenue gets generated from this. That'll give us a good gauge.
I can
do some. I think we can do some.
I can.
Some extraction. It won't be exact, right?
Yeah, it
We
won't be
can figure
exact,
out-
but we can give you a
even-
ballpark number.
It would be interesting to try to figure that out with the number of households that we had, and some of this is related to growth, or is this just still building the base, or things figuring out? Well, that'd be a good test for us
Show
to.
some averages.
But this also includes, I'm going to say, some of our winter visitors that are not year-round residents too.
For sure.
So that was going to be another, I want to say,
Yeah,
figure into that.
Some of that's been in the base, right? So that growth is kind of, I think what you're getting at is, what are we doing as we grow? Is you see a significant, when you go 1.1 to 1.5 in 2 years, which is how many
Yeah,
residents we
that
have,
was-
you're looking at 40% increase.
Yeah, that was 23, 24. 24, 25 is going to have a jump. And the faster they build out, the higher that's going to jump.
It's not just new houses and new development. I was just mentioned to Robert, 20 years ago, when I wanted to buy something, I went down to the mall, and I spent the day there, and I shopped, and I did all my shopping there. I bet you today I do 99.9% of my shopping online. I haven't been to the mall for a year, and if you're not going to collect taxes from me from online, there's just one person that's not paying any taxes because I'm doing online buying.
Yes.
If you remember, when COVID hit, everybody was just extraordinarily worried about losing all kinds of revenue because we weren't allowed to go shopping at the stores other than Walmart, right? But this is what saved a lot of communities, a lot of cities across the nation by having this type of tax source and tax revenue. I can remember leading up to this Wayfair ruling, a lot of friends, colleagues, family members, I shop online, I don't want to pay no taxes. And I said, so you don't want to support the people that feed you, in other words. And, had a lot of interesting discussions from some very, well, we'll leave it at that. And thankfully, this ruling came down, and it, got everybody back on a fair playing field.
And isn't that the reason you see that reflected in the
Yeah.
1920, 2021 revenues is so much
Just a
larger,
guess, but I think that's right.
more substantial?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the 1920 was only, I believe, 3 months?
Yeah, it was only when Wayfair came.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was only a few months of the year that it was effective.
Your Honor, I'll just add, it is a good time, better than ever, that we start bringing these up because it seems like to me the last 2 to 3 years especially have been at the state legislature continual. You're seeing it now with the city of Phoenix looking at a sales tax because they lost their revenue with the residential rental to a big degree like us, and also their the income tax impact. And so more cities and towns, and we just did point 2 and point 2 to keep our revenue stream base going, which we are doing our best because it is a tightening of the belt because we kept the same rate, but we also did take the hit on 1.5 million that we didn't. We're going to try to work through it. So we're good. I'm glad we're bringing this up so we can continue to stay on top of the state legislature, or just watching this.
I would imagine that at the League of Cities, we're going to hear a lot more about the different things that have been coming up in the legislature that are hurting cities across the state. Because the strongest we can be is by banding together, and I think we're going to hear a lot of it at the League of Cities.
Robert, do you have a tally as to which of our representatives voted to push this along? In other words, did Blackman say, fall in line, or did he vote no?
It was voted on party lines across. So, yes, all 4 of our representatives in the House voted yes to cross this over, to pass this to the Senate.
That tells you what we need to vote.
We need to hold them accountable for their
These are the
votes.
individuals that are trying to destroy our community.
And, just a side comment on the aspect that I've talked to several of our legislators, and they have very strong opinions as to following the party line and to heck with what's going on in towns and cities. It's more important for them to feel that they're, again, following the party line. We do have one thing that's Blackman is going against the party, but he's receiving a lot of, I'm going to say, negative aspects on that because pushback. But again, it is something that is pushed party, not the I'm gonna say, what the whole thing is going down. They're strictly more interested in supporting the party, and that's been very frustrating on my part.
I think one of the best things that nonpartisan city councils and anything that is not run by a party is that the fact that they deal with an issue, not with a group.
Yes. Okay. Anything else? Okay, that's the end. I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Rob.